When we hear about the war in Ukraine and what's needed in terms of aid, the conversation is usually about supplying weapons. Making sure the Ukrainian military is able to fight is vital. So is keeping the Ukrainian economy afloat during this war. And that means helping an important small and medium-sized business sector, farmers.
We got weapons from our partners, but we don't get money to pay salaries, for example, to the soldiers in the army. We need to make money for the war by ourselves. And since the beginning of the war, agricultural sector is the main locomotive of Ukrainian economy. And when farmers are not able to sell and the price is below the cost, then it's a big challenge for the future.
Stories from the front lines of the tremendous efforts underway to help save the Ukrainian agricultural sector and why more assistance from the international community will be vital to keep it afloat. That's just ahead. I'm Andrew Wilson, Executive Director of the Center for International Private Enterprise. Welcome to MOVA, the business language for the new Ukraine, a podcast from SITE where we'll take a deeper look into Ukraine's economy, policies, and business outlook. Our guest today is Andrii Dykun, the chairman of the Ukrainian Agrarian Council, the largest agricultural association in Ukraine and a former deputy minister of agrarian policy and food. Andrii joins us to share his perspective on the role the agricultural community and business leaders can play in helping to rebuild and deliver prosperity in Ukraine. Welcome to MOVA, Andrii.
Thank you.
You know, we all sitting outside the country know that this has been an incredibly difficult year for Ukraine. How are you and your colleagues doing?
In our organization, we have more than 1,000 members, and some of our members are on occupied territories, and most of them are imprisoned by Russians. Other part of members are on the occupied territories, and their farms are destroyed, their fields are mined, and the rest of the farmers are in the west, north, south, and middle Ukraine, also not feeling good because they can't sell their product. But for example, yesterday we had a general meeting of our members, and we all understand that it's very difficult for us, but it is not so difficult as for our farmers who are in jail, and as for our farmers who are on the occupied territories. And last but not least, it is not so difficult as the Ukrainian army. So it's very difficult, but some people are feeling much more difficulties than we are. So we have no any other choice as to continue and help as much as we can.
I know the Agrarian Council, and I know it's an outstanding association for its members. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to help your members at this point, what the council itself is working on? I recall in an earlier conversation, you used the term that war is now sort of like a habit for people. That denotes that people are learning to live with the situation, but clearly you at the Agrarian Council have had to develop your own approaches to help your members in that regard. Can you tell us a little bit about, A, what are the prime issues your members are facing, and B, how the council is working to help them in this new environment?
Just a few words about the council. So when I was working in the Ministry of Agriculture, I have realized that Ukrainian farmers, they are not presented in the parliament, they are not in the government, and some people, they can do what they want to do about agricultural policy. And then we analyze the world, and for us, the US model of doing agricultural business is very understandable, because in US, agri is business, the same in Ukraine, like agricultural sector is business. So we did more or less the same that you guys have done many, many years ago. So we just settled an association. And our main task of association before the war was to advocate the interest of the farmers in the parliament of Ukraine and in the government of Ukraine. We also taken into account that the war started in 2014. We were used to protect our farmers. So we had our private protection company. We had more than 100 people working there, but now all these guys, they are in the army. We help our farmers with bookkeeping, with tax legislation, other juridical questions they ask us to help them with. And we also start some cooperatives, like in America, we have cooperatives, and we start to do some grain cooperative, milk cooperative. And also we do a lot of education for the farmers. But the first day the war started, we have realized that if our cities would be surrounded by Russian army, they would immediately die if there is no food. So 2 days after the war, we start to send trucks with grain to Kiev. Kiev was not surrounded at all, but only one way was to Kiev from Odessa. So we were sending like 10,000 tons of wheat to Kiev in order they could make some food, and send more than 5,000 tons of different food to cities like Nikolaev, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, in order to give this food to people. And later on, like in April, we get to know with Jose Anders. It's a famous cook.
Sure.
You know him, World Central Kitchen organization, and we talked to him that they were helping a lot, but they were mainly bringing food from Europe. And we were asking him not to bring food to Ukraine. It's better to buy food from local Ukrainian farmers and to give this food to people. And actually, they started to do so. And I'm very grateful for that. And all American people, because only through the World Central Kitchen, it was $450 million investment in the food, which was given to Ukrainian internally moved people or people in affected areas and so on. So it was a great job done, which is not very, I would say, popular, because most people think that Americans help us only with weapon, but it's weapon, yes, but not only weapon. Another thing which was important for us is to somehow help our farmers on the occupied territories to bring, for example, they have farms, no pharmacy there. They can buy any medicine, any food for the cows, for example. So we were supplying all this for them.
Andrii, how can you get help into the occupied territories? I would think that would be incredibly dangerous.
Yes, it was dangerous, but we were sure that it will not last so long, for example. Right. And we need to bring some medicine, for example, for cows. If there is no medicine, cows will die and so on. But then we stopped. After the Russians, it was like first month, maybe month and a half. But then Russians, they took control over the farms and that's it. So we stopped any connection to them.
What do we know about the conditions of these farmers now that are behind Russian lines? Are they able to do anything? Are they surviving?
So the situation is like that. Some of the farmers during like first half year of occupation, they run away from those territory. They went to Crimea, from Crimea to Georgia, from Georgia to Europe, and from Europe back to Ukraine. That was the way how they managed to escape from that territory. Their farms were given to Russian state control, and they bring some people from Russia, and these people now are trying to run all those farms and so on. And unfortunately, many of our farmers were in jail. Some of them we managed to talk to Ukrainian politics, and they changed them for Russian soldiers, for example. Like last guy was sitting in the prison, he was more than 1 year, and he was just a farmer. And that's the situation. All the grain the farmers had, took that grain and sell somewhere. I don't know where they sell it by. I think to Turkey. First to Crimea, and then they export somewhere. So most of those farmers are here, and some of them are in Ukrainian army now. They want to help soldiers to save their land back to them.
And I think something to stress is that not only are farmers business people in Ukraine, but they're small business people. And, you know, they're probably supporting families and other people. Are you able to help them out in any way when they are able to resettle in Western Ukraine or make their way back into Western Ukraine? Or what's available for them when they come back into Ukraine?
They all think that the war will over soon, but already it takes a lot of time. And for example, what we do, a lot of people, farmers from Kherson region, for example, they used to grow vegetables. And Kherson region was like a vegetable region for Ukraine. Now it's occupied. So we just tell this farmer that, okay, we can give you some land from other farmers. Well, farmer was like growing wheat, for example, and we support them with money. They established association of farmers of occupied territory, and we also help them advocating their interests, because unfortunately, for example, banks are asking those farmers to pay credits. And you can imagine the situation. The farm is occupied, for example, like in Zaporizhia region. There is an electrical operator, and he is sending bills to a farmer whose farm is occupied, and the farmer is not on that territory. Farmer is here in not occupied territory, and the operator is asking him to pay bills for that Russians are using his farm now. It sounds like absurd, but that's the reality. And of course, those farmers, they need help. So we help like advocates, lawyers, and then when, for example, the territory is deoccupied, then they want to come back, but what they see that they need money for this, like to restart their business. And unfortunately, they don't have money for that. And banks in Ukraine, they don't give money to them because they're afraid that maybe later Russians will be back and everything will disappear. So that's one of the ideas. We are talking now to many financial institutions in the world, like World Bank, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, USAID, that we need to focus helping especially farmers from deoccupied territories to make like a foundation for them so they could take loans.
That's an amazing story. And sometimes I think we really don't think about these sort of what seem to be crazy situations that people end up in. One of the bits of footage and films we see on television here in the United States when we see reports from the war in Ukraine are the huge amounts of unexploded mines, wrecked tanks, other military equipment, damage to property that exists. How can we get these farmers' fields even back into productive use? It would seem to me that that's probably the first job, other than finding a place to live, that a farmer has to deal with is his own ground, his own land.
Yes, that's a big issue for Ukrainian farmers on the occupied territories. And still there are a lot of fields which we cannot even investigate because the front line is very close. And the front line is very big, it's more than 1,000 kilometers. So it's still a lot of fields we don't even know what is there. And of course, there are some fields which are deeply mined. Then, of course, we need specialists for those fields, like with special machinery and so on. We even talked with Ukrainian military specialists on the mining, and they showed us one machine. So the farmer could put this machine in front of his tractor, for example, and if there are some mines on the field, then the farmer, it's himself and the tractor will be okay, but some part of machine can be destroyed and then it can be removed and the farmer can continue.
Very dangerous situation. So we've talked about the funding question. How do you get the money to restart your operation? How do you resolve the debts and the bills that people keep sending you? We've talked about the physical security problem and issue that the farmers have in terms of land that's been destroyed. Of course, the other piece of the puzzle, if you're a farmer, is the supplies that you need to grow the crops, to fertilize, to treat for insects. Are there things that your association is doing or that your association might have a perspective on in terms of making sure that those supply chains of product going into the country are accessible to these farmers? And what are the key problems that those farmers are having getting those supplies in the first place?
From the beginning of the war, the only problem was diesel, because most of our diesel was from Belarus and partly by the sea, and we were producing only 15% of diesel in Ukraine. So what we did as an organization, we immediately bought like big trucks for diesel, and we now deliver diesel from factories in Europe directly to the farm. We solved this issue in like 2 months. It was done, no problem anymore. That was the only problem of inputs. The other like fertilizers, Ukrainian fertilizer company are operating still, what is good. What we do, for example, for the farmers on the deoccupied territory, like this season, they needed winter barley, winter wheat, and winter rapeseeds. So we fundraised money from our farmers, and then for that money, we bought seeds for them. That's the way how we help them, but on the occupied territory only. For the rest of the farmers, its input is not a problem at all. The problem is that we can't sell our product. We have good yield this year. Grain deal is not working anymore. We do not have prices, like our production cost is higher than the price for the farm. And that's the problem. And that's very important for Ukraine because like 50% of our budget is given by our partners. We got weapon from our partners, but we don't get money to pay salaries, for example, to the soldiers in the army. No one give us money for the war. We need to make money for the war by ourselves. And in Ukraine, why agricultural sector is so important? Because compare, for example, to US, in Ukraine, agricultural sector is around 20% of GDP. Like in the United States, it's around 2%. In European countries, it's like 3-4%. And since the beginning of the war, agricultural sector is the main locomotive of Ukrainian economy. And when farmers are not able to sell and the price is very low, below the cost, then it's a big challenge for the future. And that's what we do now. We ask our partners, US and European countries, guys, we need to help farmers to have normal price, just normal price for their production. And for that, the only possible way, what we see now in Ukraine, is to make intervention.
You know, I hear all of these activities that your association is doing, which are so vital, so important. How do you do this? Do you have lots of people volunteering to help out? How do you organize your association as an executive to respond to all of these needs? It must be an incredible amount of work. And I can't imagine just the professional staff of an association being able to do this by themselves.
So we have a special team which I call humanitarian direction. Now we start with World Central Kitchen. Now we do it by ourselves with other donors or by our money. We still continue to make food boxes. We have 2 warehouses in the center of Ukraine where we pack food boxes, and we send these food boxes by trucks to the deoccupied territories. And we use our farmers like a network, because farmer has a truck, farmer has a warehouse, and farmer know very good people in his village. So he will give every family a box per week. So we do a lot like this as humanitarian. Another thing is vegetable seeds. It's also very important to support people on the deoccupied territories. We call them backyard farms. It's a small garden near your house. So we were supplying seeds, a lot of seeds to our farmer members, and they distribute the seeds to people in their village. That's how it works, like in our humanitarian. The same is with medicine, for example. We have a list of farms, we have a list of people who have animals, we send to farmers, and we trust, very trustful network. And from the beginning of the war, we also established a charity foundation. Now it's 1.5 years, because for some donors, it's very easy to work with us, Ukrainian Agricultural Council, as non-government organization. Other people don't understand this, they want charity foundation. So we have even charity foundation. Another side for us is we also help Ukrainian army a lot. The Ukrainian chief commander, Mr. Zaluzhny, he mentioned that one pickup truck saves one life. So we already have sent to our Ukrainian army 1,300 pickup trucks, which we bought in Europe, delivered to Ukraine, we fix them and send to the army. And that's one of the things I would like to use an opportunity today, because our farmers, especially from these affected territories, they do not have such trucks anymore because they were or destroyed or mobilized to the army. And with this truck pickup, it's much more safety for him to use field rollers, to be in the field, because if there is a mine, he has a chance to survive in a pickup truck. Every farmer has different needs. Some need seeds, some need tractor, some need harvester. So you cannot guess what you read, but everyone needs pickup. So, and Jose told us yesterday that he will donate 1 million and he will talk to other people, and maybe together with them and other people in the US, we will manage to deliver some pickup trucks to Ukraine to give to every farmer on affected territory. And that's also the way we are trying to help them. So you need to spend a lot of time, communication, negotiation. A lot of donors now coming to Ukraine, and if you or our member wants to take some money from the donor, he needs to send application and to get money from the donors. But to write application, it's a special skills and knowledge. You need to know how to write, how to describe, and in many cases it should be done in English. So again, we have a special department with 7 people who from day to day, every day, they talk with farmers about their needs. They know all the donors, how they could help farmer. They write these projects together with the farmers, send these projects to the donors. Sometimes they win, sometimes not, but that's the way how we operate. As an organization, at this moment, in our council, around 400 people.
That's amazing that
I think
even 400 people are able to make such a huge impact on the situation
yes.
for agriculture in Ukraine. The other
And
issue that we hear a lot about in the West, of course, is the issue of grain exports. It's very timely right now because of the collapse of the deal to allow ships from Odessa, which means that Ukraine must export its product right now via land channels. And there are all sorts of problems, maybe small, maybe large, with some of your neighbors about moving grain through those markets. What can you tell us about what the Agri Council is doing to help resolve these issues?
so what we do, we try to communicate with our partners. For example, I just returned from Lithuania, where I met with Ministry of Agriculture of Lithuania and leaders of Lithuanian Farmers Association to explain them that do not be afraid of Ukraine product in Lithuania, because yes, it's not good for you. You will make less money, but you pay by money, we pay by our lives. And we communicate with Poland, with Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, all those countries who, at the moment, they protected export from Ukraine. And this is not very good, and we don't like it. We try to communicate to them because on the one side, they help us with weapon. On the other side, they don't give us possibility to sell. But even so, if it is okay and we could sell to EU countries, it will not help us a lot because railway connection is not and road connection is not enough. I can give you figures. So before, when the grain corridor was working, around 3 million tons we were exporting through Dunai ports, and 3 million tons we were exporting by Odessa ports. By railway was around 1 million, and by trucks, 500,000. Now Odessa port is not available anymore because no grain deal, and Dunai ports are under attack almost every day by Russians. So railway for us is not solution. And globally, there is only one way for us is Odessa ports, deep water I call, and for that we need F-16. Actually, that's when I talk because since we help army a lot, we talk to our generals and they said, guys, if you want your ships go from Odessa, we need to protect from the air. And the only possible way for that is F-16. So now we are very thankful to United States and other partners and our pilots now are training. So we really hope that by the end of the year, F-16 will be in Ukraine and that they could help to protect our sky and we would have a normal export. But up to now, we have good yield, good product, but the price is below the production cost. Makes no sense.
This has been a fascinating discussion, Andrii, and I want to thank you for giving us these insights about how closely interlinked Ukraine's security is with its agricultural security. And I think that's something that people don't give enough thought to. The stories you've told us about how directly the agricultural sector is not only paying the salaries of soldiers through their taxes and their product, but also they're doing it in an incredibly difficult operating environment. Often it sounds to me as at a loss, but yet they continue to farm because it's what they know how to do and the contribution they know how to make. And your association is key to helping them get that done. And I want to congratulate you personally and the 400 who work with you on making lives for Ukrainian farmers, at least something that they can do. And in a way, you're also helping the war effort in a very concrete way. And I really hope that you can find those pickup trucks you need. I hope you can resolve your credit issues for your members and these absurd situations for them when they're holding debts on land they can't control. These are stories that are very important, I think, for people around the world to hear. So I just wanted to offer my thanks to you and to wish you more success in the work that you do.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to every American citizen, to all American people, because you really, guys, you help us a lot. Without you, Ukraine would not survive. And I think I would not be in Uman today and talking about agricultural sector. I would stay somewhere in the Western Europe or maybe in US. But thanks to you, we are fighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we're with you, and we'll keep up the fight with you. And thank you for joining us on this episode of MOVA. For more information on the Center for International Private Enterprise and our work, please visit our website at cipe.org. If you found value in this episode, please show your support by liking and subscribing to MOVA. Sharing this podcast with others helps expand the conversation. Thank you.
MOVA, the business language of the new Ukraine.